Welcome to Spirituality Simplified. I am so excited. We have a special guest this week on the show, Jennifer Smith, who is my friend and someone I have worked with and studied with and gone on so many fun spiritual adventures together. And we are talking about mediumship today. And so Jennifer is a medium. She's a professional medium and healer who communicates on behalf of people who have passed on in order to help clients regain a sense of peace and security that may have been lost with the passing of the people they love. So Jennifer is a beautiful spirit. She's doing amazing work. This is such a special gift. Mediums, I think, they're such special people because they are connecting with your past loved ones and they provide so much healing. And Jennifer's amazing. I can attest she is the real deal. She's awesome. And she is located here in the the Denver metro area, but she works with clients all across the world. So we're so excited to have you here, Jennifer. And just to let you know, her business is Connect to Heal, and her website is www.connecttohealmedium.com. And I'll repeat that at the end, but just wanted to mention that. So welcome, Jennifer, to the show. We're so excited to have you.
It's an honor to be here. I am so excited to be here with you, my friend Allie, and to all of our listeners, hello.
Yay, hello. Okay, so let's just start. Just kind of let our listeners and the YouTube watchers know a little bit about you. Like, how did you start your mediumship journey? I like to ask people kind of their spiritual awakening story, because that's kind of what prompted this whole podcast in the first place. So I like to kind of start off like, what was that moment for you? How did you become medium?
Well, that's a really good question. And I would say my journey started when I was younger, not in the way that you hear a lot of mediums where they say, I just saw people as I was walking down the street. I sensed people all the time. Mine was a lot more subtle. I would sense people in spirit at different times. So one amazing experience that I had was I was not able to see my grandmother before she passed. And about, I'd say 5 months after she passed, I had a visitation from her one night where I felt this pressure on my chest, and it was frightening at first. But then I felt this overwhelming feeling of love and peace, and this knowing she was communicating with me telepathically. So I knew it was her, and she loved me, and it was this closure that I needed. So I would say that's one of the most profound experiences that I had early on. What led me to this point is just always being open to exploring my psychic gifts. I had a very supportive mother who had a very strong spirituality and was open to me exploring that. I was able to share my experiences with her, and that helped me along the journey. So that was probably one of the most profound experiences that I had growing up.
Yeah, and you said you had this experience with your grandmother. How old were you when that happened?
I was in my early 20s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I just got goosebumps when you were talking about that. That's just amazing. Um, so tell us a little bit about mediumship. For some of our listeners or watchers that may not know exactly what a medium is, can you share with us what you do?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So what I will do is I connect with people who are here in the living plane, like you and I, and then also connect with people that have passed on, and at times spirit guides. So what I feel happens is, and I've gotten this confirmation several times, but someone who has passed on either they want to connect with someone here or vice versa. And it's very much like an appointment that you would set up with two friends. What I do is I am the intermediary where I have developed the ability to communicate, to receive information through different ways. Sometimes I just hear words, sometimes I feel information and it's coming from someone who's passed on, and then I convey that message to the person who is here sitting with me. So that's where the term
Oh,
medium comes
wow.
from.
That's
I'm
amazing.
in the middle, the medium.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I didn't, actually, I never really knew that.
Yeah.
But yes, that makes sense. um, that's so fascinating. So with mediumship, is that something that it just kind of, you said you started developing that gift. Was it something that you like consciously worked on, or how did you learn to become a medium?
Yeah, so I mentioned that it's been a spiritual journey my entire life, and I never in a million years thought I would be a medium or that I would be connecting people to others that had passed on. I just never thought that would be my path. So as I was developing over the years, now I realize I was developing the language, under learning how to speak the language, so that when I got to this point in my life, I was able to communicate. And what opened the door for me was I had an experience where I was sitting watching National Geographic with my partner and his father, and all of a sudden I felt my father's presence there, who's in spirit. And I stopped, paused what I was doing, and just kind of looked like, "Is that you, Dad?" And I was getting information from him, like, "Please go into your office." So I proceeded to do that, and he shared messages with me. He said, "This is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be connecting with people in spirit, with the purpose of helping people to heal here on earth." And then I proceeded to have several relatives who had passed on come through and send messages. I can't tell you how remarkable that experience was, but that's really what gave me the affirmation that this is how you'll be using those skills you've been developing throughout the years.
Wow, that's amazing. I can imagine that would be such a powerful experience on so many different levels. Like, whoa. But it's nice to get that clarity. I mean, it's like really clear. Like, this is it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you've got these gifts. Here you go. Now go run with it.
That's exactly it. And I
Yeah.
still have sovereignty. I still have the control over what I decide to do, but I very much felt that calling, and it's about
Yeah.
service. So,
Absolutely.
grief is something that a lot of us are familiar with. Um, I came from a very big family with a lot of people to love and be loved by, and that also comes with a lot of loss. So for
Yeah.
me, when that connection came through with the people that I had lost, which now I realize I didn't actually lose, that was transformative in my healing and through grief.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think what you're doing is so critical, especially in these times that we're in now, with COVID and so much loss that people have experienced. People are grieving, they have questions, they don't have closure. I hear that a lot from people who have lost someone during COVID because they weren't able to visit them in the hospital and say goodbye and have that closure. And so you're able to provide that for people and during such a critical, important time. And it's so amazing. I'm just so grateful that you're here and you're providing that service for people. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, why would somebody want to get a reading from a medium?
It runs the gamut. So there are a lot of people that get readings because they're curious and they're interested to hear more from people that they knew during their lifetime. They want to check in and see how they're doing. it's not always associated with grief. So sometimes it's just really checking in and seeing how is this person doing, and getting that affirmation that they're okay. Sometimes it's about connecting for an individual here on earth to find out all that closure that you mentioned. How does my mom feel about the career choice that I've made? So they're just very much wanting to continue that relationship. On the other side of the coin, it can be about grief. And if you think about it, even if we lose someone that we didn't have a significant relationship or close relationship with, if it's somebody that we knew and had some sort of relationship, maybe it's a father that we were estranged from, when they pass, there's always that lingering question about how does that person feel about me now? Or I wish I would have told this person how I truly feel. So that kind of connection, and I'm getting the goosebumps as I share this, which means that it's just
Yes.
really resonating with spirit. It's about healing. And it doesn't have to be that significant loss where we go through this grief and feel it every day when we wake up, all throughout the day. It can also just be about closure, just to any degree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting the answers to those unanswered questions. And I think a lot of it too is just, like you said, just kind of giving you that comfort, like knowing that they're okay, they're in a good place. And, I found too, a lot of times spirit has messages, like they didn't get to share something maybe that they wanted to in their lifetime. So this is an opportunity for them to share something, like, I'm getting goosebumps too. We just got spirit with us today. This is great.
We do.
Um, yes. But it's gives them an opportunity to kind of relay something. Maybe that there was some kind of disconnect in their lifetime on Earth, but like their true feelings, spirit is like pure love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is so wonderful, and it's so powerful, and like you said, so healing. Oh my gosh, that's very, very healing. That can help you kind of move on into your life, but still remain connected, like you said, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different types of mediumship, which I have actually just kind of recently learned about. So if you want, just kind of briefly, you can talk about the different types, and then what do you particularly practice?
Sure. So there are different types of mediumship, and if you research it today online, you will find different definitions. So the best way that I can sum it up is there's the physical mediumship, where those are individuals that you may remember from some of the pictures in the 1800s, 1900s, where mediumship became very popular. A lot of metaphysical things were coming about, and you would see people that were channeling physically. So they would take on the characteristics of the deceased person, and sometimes their voice would alter or change. That is one form of mediumship. Another form is called mental mediumship, and that's what I practice, where I get messages from spirit, and I'm using my clairvoyance, clairaudience, the different clairs, which I know that you've done a podcast on that before. So for your listeners or viewers, yeah. So that's the kind of information that I get using those clairs and convey the messages that way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I know, it's interesting. There's all sorts. I mean, mediumship, like you said, has been around for so long, and there's all sorts of interesting information out there. But yeah, there's definitely different kinds. I feel like the mental mediumship is softer, maybe. I guess is the way to say it. Just
Yeah.
because it's because you're still like conscious. Like I know there's like some people kind of go into a trance and like they become that spirit, and that can be like, oh, for somebody who's never experienced that. So it's just more just like a conversation with you, just a normal conversation. You're just channeling in the messages you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So now you are a very special, and I know I'm partial because I know you and love you, but you provide some really cool, unique services that are different than a lot of mediums. So share with us what you offer.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. And I feel the same about you, my
Oh,
dear.
thank you.
With my services, I offer the one-to-one connection. So this would be basically what I described, where you'll come in over Zoom or in person. Right now, it's mainly over Zoom because of the COVID. So we'll meet over Zoom and we'll have that one-on-one session where I will convey messages from Spirit. If you're open to it, a lot of times Spirit guides will come through and I can help you make that connection. And then just as a side note, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but when I'm connecting with Spirit, I don't have a hotline or a telephone to pick up and say, hey, we'd like to speak with Allie's Uncle Bob. It doesn't always work that way. So a lot of times we can set that intention, but it's very open as far as who comes through. Then I offer two other types of services, which are packages. One is if you are interested in connecting on your own, which I am from the school of thought that anybody can do this. It doesn't happen overnight where you can connect with loved ones, but as part of your healing process, if that's something that you want to develop, I will work with you to develop your mediumship skills. So there's an initial session where we explore how you will communicate. I connect directly with your guides and people who have passed on in your life to get advice for how you can have that communication on your own. And then at the last part of that series, we will have you practice on your own. So it's very much facilitated. It's a safe environment. And then the third practice session is just focused on a one-to-one mentorship where we work together to hone your skills. It's a personal journey. So this is probably what I'm most excited about, is helping people understand, okay, this is how I will connect. And wait a minute, I think I've already been getting some messages. So it's a wonderful discovery process.
Yeah, that's so cool. I just love that you offer this because, yeah, there's lots of mediums who will do readings, and that's awesome. And if that's what you were looking for, that's amazing. But I love that you take it a step further and provide an additional service. And like you said, like we all have that capability. We can connect with our loved ones too. And I love that you offer that ability to teach people how to connect. And it's so empowering, and it's self-healing, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. And you can connect with your loved ones anytime. Then you don't feel like you're disconnected. I always say, like, my dad passed away about 3 years ago. I almost feel closer to him now than I did when he was alive because he's with me all the time. Like he was in Texas, I'm in Colorado, so physically I didn't really see him as much, but I feel really close to him now because I'm always talking to him and he's always with me in my heart. So I think that's so cool that you're teaching people how to do that. And I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in that. And then, of course, too, as we talked about with this spiritual awakening, I talk about this on my show all the time. People are awakening to their gifts, and they're, starting to ask the questions like, why am I here? And, they're starting to really explore their own spirituality. And, maybe some of our listeners have thought, oh, maybe I am a medium. Maybe this is my calling. So I love that you can help teach people to become mediums as well. So I just can't say enough. It's amazing. Like there's so many great things, Jennifer. You're so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very exciting times we live in. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, this is much needed for sure. So we're very thankful you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. So if somebody signs up for a reading, what can they expect? If let's say you've never had a psychic reading, you've never been to anything, and someone comes to you for a reading, what can they expect to happen?
So, what we'll do is, first of all, I take a moment to connect with the person. So, we'll get into the same space together. And this is virtual, it works the same virtually as it does in person. And what that looks like is just doing some breathing together. And then I will set the intention that the communication that comes through is only for the highest good, and only those individuals who are of the highest vibration are allowed to enter our space. And then I will spend some time just relaying the information that I get. Uh, and sometimes the information that comes through doesn't make sense to the person who I'm reading for during that session. But I've had people say a week later or 2 weeks later, you know what? This clicks. That was my aunt. I didn't know her very well, but after I talked to my mom, I found out that she, for example, wore those types of shoes that you described that I
Yeah.
saw when I got that information. And that's the one-to-one session. And then I will ask questions for the person who is sitting with me if they have anything specific they'd like to ask. The most powerful thing that I experience during these readings is I will feel this overwhelming sense of love. Like you mentioned, spirit is love. And if there was that connection between the person in spirit and the person here on earth, then that love comes through. That's a gift for all everybody involved, but I'll be able to convey
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring up a good point too. So you come into a reading, and let's say you want to connect with someone specifically. Um, so you can set that intention, but do you find that other people tend to come forward that maybe that the person didn't think about, right? Like they come
Mm-hmm.
to connect with their dad, but maybe their grandmother comes forward and has a message. Do you find that happens a lot?
It does. So what I do is I check in and ask some follow-up questions like, how do you know this person, either of the person that's sitting or the person in spirit? And then at times it's a spirit guide. So I've had
Mm-hmm.
both come through. I had a reading done because I've been very active in this, like I mentioned before, in this world for a long time, and had readings myself. And I had a great uncle come through who I had never met in life, but he had a message for me to convey to my father to say hi.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah, I know. It wasn't a medium, I had a psychic reading, and my grandmother came through that I wasn't really close with, and I was kind of like, oh, that's a surprise. Like, but it was
Mhm.
really like, that's what's so cool. It was like, it felt really special that she came through, and like, it was important for her to connect with me. So I think it's really interesting, like, who will come through. So yeah, definitely be open minded
Mhm.
because you never know.
Oh my gosh, and that's so powerful. Think about the healing that can take place for us and then for people in spirit. I've
Yeah.
had more than one grandmother come through and say that they did the best that they could. They were very distant, but they'll give some insight into what happened in their
Yeah.
life. So
Wow.
it's super powerful.
Yeah. And do you find that spirit tends to just want to like give you all this information before you're able to like ask a question? I mean, do you feel like you just start talking like, okay, this is what they're trying to get. They like want to tell you this so bad, you know?
Yeah, it's so the way that I get the information, like I mentioned, sometimes I'll see visual images,
Uh-huh.
sometimes I'll hear words. I've felt things like pressure on my chest, and as soon as
Mm.
I release it, it goes away. So what I do is just convey all the information, but sometimes it comes through very fast that
Mm-hmm.
it's like we have to decipher it together. The person sitting with me in life, who's
Yeah.
in the physical plane, it's like a really fun Sudoku puzzle. You know, if you like those, you get
Yeah.
to figure it out. So
Yes.
yeah, you do get rapid fire information.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I mean, I find that this happens I mean, I've had this happen when I've had a reading, but even when I just do my own channeling and meditations and I get a message from my guides and I'm like, what does this mean? You know, like I don't get it. Or if I pull an
Hmm.
oracle card and I get a message, I'm like, how does this relate? And it might be 2 days later where I'm like in the shower, like, oh, yes, I totally get it. I know what that means.
Yeah.
So, yes, that is a good reminder for people because sometimes things don't make sense in the moment, but it will pop up later and make sense.
Yeah, when in the shower, I mean, how many people have their best ideas?
Oh my
Also, when you have a
gosh.
mediumship reading, things make sense afterwards sometimes in the shower, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite place. I don't know.
There's something about it.
I know, I know. I wonder if it's just because it's cleansing and relaxing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The water element, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So, um, is there anything else that you want to share, like of something like an example of something of like what someone might experience during a reading? You kind of shared some already, but um, anything else that maybe they can expect?
I would say it's important to be open minded.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period of time in the latter part of the 1900s, 20th century, where people were all about proving that life exists after death.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's no longer the focus. That's not the focus for me. It's not about that proof, it's about healing. So,
Mm-hmm.
having an open mind when you go
Mm-hmm.
into a mediumship reading is very impactful. If you're skeptical, don't, you can go to a medium, but I don't know that that's the right venue for you. So really listen to yourself. Um, and then I'm right now I'm just getting some information, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel very strongly that the people that I've read for and will read for in the future will leave with a different perspective on what happens after life, and that's going to give them an added security.
Yes. I love that. That is amazing. Beautiful. Okay, so and it's kind of a little bit like we just talked about, but what is one thing that you want our listeners and the YouTube watchers to know about mediumship? You could just sum it up in one thing.
Boy, I would say the one thing is to trust. If you feel like it's important for you to connect with someone, to trust that feeling and to be open to the information that comes through, whether you're sitting with a medium or you're just in your everyday life. Believe in that instinct that you get, that if you see, there was a time that I saw a butterfly in the middle of winter when I opened my front door, and it just zoomed by, and I knew at that time that it was my mother. She had just passed. So trust yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that was a long answer. I think you asked for a short one,
Oh,
but
no, no, this is
there's a
perfect.
lot to
Trust,
say
yeah.
about it. Yeah, trust.
Yes.
Trust your feelings. If you feel like that's my mom sending me a message, trust that, because
Yes.
I tell you, more often than not, that's exactly what it is, if not always.
Yeah, like if you're just like putzing around your house and you get this thought of your past loved one, or like a song comes on the
Yeah.
radio that reminds you of that, like that's them. They're communicating with you. They're
Hmm.
letting you know, hey, I'm with you. And it's just that confirmation, that reassurance, like I'm still here. I'm still with you. That's such a great reminder, and I think that too. It's a good reminder just in general, right? Like if you want to connect, like you just ask to send signs, and I've talked about this in the angels episode and the spirit guides episode, where if you want to connect with your spirit guide, or your past loved one, ask for a sign. like they will send you one. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually kind of fun, you know. It may take a couple days, but you'll see it. Like it will come through.
Yep.
And ask for something weird and obscure, you know, like
Like a
the
purple
butterfly is
frog.
beautiful. Yes, yes, that
Yeah.
was my example. We'll talk about that again, but
That was
yes,
the best.
yeah. So something random, right? And then I'm telling you, you will see it. So that's such a great reminder, just in general. I love that. And I think too, you're right. Like it's so important to be just open-hearted, open-minded, and you'll know when you're ready to do this. I feel like that's when people are ready. Like there isn't any skepticism. They just and you might be curious and wonder and be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. But yeah, just having that open heart, I think that's just everything. And you'll feel it, the love, like you said. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
I
Okay,
love how you said
so
that. The open heart. Sorry, I had to
yes,
throw that in there. That's
yeah,
beautiful. Hmm.
yeah. Because if your
That means
heart
trust,
is,
doesn't it?
yeah, it does, it does. And when it's open, you can let the love in, and you'll feel it, and um, yeah, and it's being vulnerable, But I think there's so much reward in that. And that's a lesson we can all use in life in general.
Hmm.
Vulnerability, opening your heart, right? Which I
Yeah,
think we're doing a lot more these days, which is great.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so what do you love most about being a medium?
I love, for people that love to solve problems and they get that feeling of satisfaction. I love being able to help people connect. That's why I've been called to do this, and I find a lot of personal satisfaction from being on this journey and serving
Hmm.
basically spirit and individuals here on earth.
Yes, yes, it is total service. You are such a beautiful gift in this world, and it is. I feel like mediums are just gifts that spirit has brought us, like to help us in this life. It's just like spirit guide. You're like a spirit guide, like
Oh,
you're
thank you.
helping us get through
Hmm.
this life because it's difficult. It's hard to live on earth. It's not an easy existence. So that's why we have spirit to help us and, get through this. So, um, thank you so much. Okay, so the last thing, I've got a couple little rapid fire questions. So I'm just gonna
Okay.
like ask a question and then just shoot out your answer. Just real quick, boom, boom, boom.
Okay. Do I get points for this or anything? Or
Sure, yeah.
is there a prize at the end if I pass?
Woo! Yes. No, okay. No, you'll get points in heaven. Okay.
Okay. All right, Allie.
You're like, yeah, yeah. Okay,
I'm
next.
in. I'm in.
Yep. You're like, okay, well, I guess if that's the case. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm
What's your
ready.
favorite spiritual book?
My favorite spiritual book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Such a good one. Okay. Favorite oracle card deck?
The Akashic Tarot.
Another good
I know
one.
you love that one too. Hmm.
I think I may have mentioned that on some of my podcasts before. So, what's your favorite essential oil?
I am loving rosemary oil these days.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. I feel like that might be. I actually just listened to a podcast recently on connecting essential oils with your astrological sign. And I feel like one of the
Ooh,
signs was rosemary. I have to look into that. But that was a
yeah.
cool thing. So anyway, okay. Favorite divination tool?
Ooh, I am loving my pendulum. I've got my Angelite pendulum on today,
Oh yeah,
and I'm
pendulum's
loving that
good.
just for grounding and clearing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do so many things with a pendulum.
Hmm.
They're so cool. And that's really good to like reassure too. Like if you're asking questions, like, and even if you're connecting with spirit, it's like, is this coming through right? You can check it with the pendulum. It's so cool.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What is the best piece of advice someone gave you?
Oh, I'm going to go back to, oh my gosh, I'm going way back. But my brother shared this little card with me when I was probably 16 that said, between the things in life you can do nothing about and the things you will do nothing about, the imminent danger is that you'll do nothing.
Oh,
And that
interesting.
resonates today because my partner said the exact same thing to me, just in his own words. And I thought,
Wow.
oh, so there's a reason why that came to me today. I guess my
Yes.
answer to your question wasn't
That's
such a
so
mystery, Allie.
awesome. Yeah. See, it's
You
all
tried to
divine
stump me on
timing.
that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
That's a hard one. I know. I'm impressed you came
Mm-hmm.
up with that so quickly because it's, I mean, gosh, that one, that could take some time, but that's awesome. That's great advice. I
Thank
love
you.
that. Cool. Okay, well, Jennifer, it was so amazing having you on. Now, if somebody would like to work with you or set up a time for a reading, what's the best way that they can reach you?
Yeah, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at connect2healmedium at gmail.com, or you can go to my website where there's a form that you can fill out and let me know what service you're interested in. You can also see my packages and pricing, and that's connect2healmedium.com. The number, it's not spelled out, or it is spelled out to TO, not the
Okay,
number
that's
two.
good. Yeah, yeah. That's good to
Just to
clarify.
clarify, yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Now, you also have a code that is special for our podcast listeners and watchers that is a discount. So if you're listening to this and you book a session with Jennifer, use this code, and the code is C2, which is the number two, but that's okay. Well, that's not critical. C2H2O. So that's C2H2O. So make sure to type in that code or tell Jennifer that code, and you'll get $20 off of a session, which is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep,
And
thank you.
don't forget, so next week we're going to have the live Q&A session, which will be next Wednesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And I'm actually streaming this through the Spirituality Simplified Facebook group, but now also through the YouTube channel. So it's opened up a little bit more, so you can watch that on either platform. And you can feel free to ask Jennifer any questions you have about the episode or just about mediumship or about her. Anything. So thank you so much for joining us next week as well. Um, and again, Jennifer's website, connect2healmedium.com. And I will include all of Jennifer's contact information and code and everything in the description for this episode. So you can look at that. And again, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jennifer, for being on the show today. I'm so grateful. You know, mediumship is just so fascinating, and it is truly a special gift, and I'm just so happy that you were able to share that with us, and hopefully, you know, maybe this brought some comfort and some clarity for some people who maybe have been struggling and are looking for that closure, maybe lost some loved ones that want to connect with them, or maybe feeling that need to, you know, that calling to become a medium, you know, themselves. So you know, thank you so much for everything. Um, and I think that's it for today. So thanks again. And remember to keep it spiritual, but keep it simple. Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you, Allie. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.